In this lecture, we'll understand what is the meaning of limiting reactant and excess reactant, and how we can find out limiting reactant from given chemical equation. So, let's understand what is limiting reactant. It may be defined as the reactant which gets completely consumed in a reaction. So, which finishes first during a chemical reaction is called as limiting reactant, and the substance or reactant which remain left during a reaction is called as excess reactant. Let's take example of formation of CO2 from carbon and oxygen. From the equation we can say 12 gram of carbon reacts with 32 gram of oxygen. So this is the standard amount of reactant which is needed for the reaction. Now, if we take 14 gram of carbon and 32 gram of oxygen, we can understand 32 gram of oxygen reacts with 12 gram of carbon. Since we are having 14 gram of carbon, so 2 gram of carbon left unreacted. So we can say the reactant which left unreacted is called as excess reactant, and the reactant which gets completely consumed is called as limiting reactant. So oxygen is completely consumed, hence it is limiting reactant, and carbon is left, so it is an excess reactant. So let's understand how to solve the question based upon limiting reactant. Remember following points. First of all, find out amount of product formed by given amount of reactant is the first step, and the reactant which give less amount of product will be limiting reactant, and another will be excess reactant. Let's understand it more clearly through following example. 4 grams of carbon reacts with 8 grams of O2 to form CO2. We need to find out limiting and excess reactant. So first of all, you have to write balanced chemical equation. And now from point number 1, find out the amount of product formed by given reactants. You have two reactants, carbon as well as oxygen, and from the statement, the given amount of carbon is 4 gram and given amount of oxygen is 8 gram. So first of all, we find out amount of CO2 formed by 4 gram of carbon given in statement. From the chemical reaction we can say 12 gram of carbon gives 44 gram of CO2. It is from the reaction. And given quantity of carbon is 4 gram, so we can write here 12 gram of carbon gave 44 gram of CO2, and 4 gram of carbon will give 14.66 gram of CO2. So this is the amount of CO2 formed by 4 gram of carbon. Now let's find out the amount of CO2 formed by 8 gram of oxygen. From the chemical reaction we can see 32 gram of O2 gives you 44 gram of CO2. From the reaction we can see 32 gram of O2 gives you 44 gram of CO2. So 8 gram of O2 will give 11 gram of CO2. So we can say from given quantity of carbon the amount of CO2 formed is 14.66 gram, and from given quantity of O2 amount of CO2 formed is 11 gram. From the second point, the reactant which give less amount of product is the limiting reactant. So we can say oxygen is the limiting reactant and carbon is excess reactant. Second example, 4 gram of hydrogen reacts with 10 grams of O2 to give water. So the first step, to write the reactions, it should be balanced. Now find out amount of H2O formed by given amount of H2. Remember guys, the amount of H2 given is 4 gram. From reaction we can see 2 grams of hydrogen give 18 gram of water. From the reaction we can say 2 gram of hydrogen give 18 gram of water, and 4 gram of hydrogen will give 36 gram of water. So amount of water formed by given amount of hydrogen is 36 gram. Now amount of H2O formed by O2 is, from reaction we can say 16 gram of O2 gives 18 gram of water, and the given amount of O2 is 10 gram. So we can say 10 gram of O2 will give 11.25 gram of water. So from second point we can say the substance which gave less amount of product is limiting reactant, hence O2 is limiting reactant. So students, and this is the simple method to find out limiting and excess reactant. Now let's try another problem. You have 8 gram of sulfur and 10 gram of O2. For the production of SO2, you need to find out 3 things: limiting reactant and excess reactant in similar manner as was in last numerical, and third is maximum amount of SO2 formed. So let's solve this question. First of all, writing of balanced chemical equation. Now maximum amount of SO2 formed by sulfur, or amount of SO2 formed by sulfur is, from reaction we can say 32 gram of sulfur gave 64 gram of SO2, and given amount of sulfur is 8 gram. So 8 gram of sulfur will give 16 gram of SO2. Similarly, for oxygen, from equation we can say 32 gram of O2 gives 64 gram of SO2, and given amount of O2 is 10 gram. So we can say 10 gram of O2 gives 20 gram of SO2. So limiting reactant is sulfur because it is giving less amount of product. So from the question we can say limiting reactant is sulfur, excess reactant is O2. Now the third part is to find out maximum amount of SO2. So always remember, maximum amount of a product formed is corresponding to that of limiting reactant. So how much amount of product is formed by limiting reactant is the maximum amount of product. So maximum amount of product, that is SO2 formed, will be 16 gram. So it is very easy topic and important topic for engineering medical entrance examination as well, and for your school examination as well. Try to understand the topic thoroughly. It is easy and it is important for your examination. Try following question for your school examinations. You can post your answer to our Facebook page, which is PICS Edu Solutions, or on our website www.picsinstitute.com.